Hello guys and welcome back to another FPL video. My name is FPL Meerkat and today I've got my Game Week 1 updated draft to you guys. The team has changed quite a bit since I made my initial draft, and yes, I am no longer on a bench boost chip. I did have a think about it since I made the video, and a lot of you helpfully pointed out some suggestions as to why not to use the bench boost chip in Game Week 1. Things that I didn't consider. I know it's an incredibly risky strat anyway, but there were other things down the line to consider. So my team has changed quite a bit since that initial draft that I made. So I'm here to share my thoughts about my current team and how that's going to look for Game Week 1. So we are over here on the FPL site. Ignore the names in the team. I was making a gimmick team for FPL Focal using only players with the surnames who match an actor. So that's why those names are in the team. But we are over on the site to make what is my updated draft. In terms of the goalkeeper, I'm not too sure who was in the first video, but we are going to go for Henderson. Henderson is going to be the first choice for the goalkeeper. I just want a Crystal Palace defender in my team somewhere. Their defensive numbers were so good last season, and I think because other defenses that I want to target, their goalkeepers are 5 million. I think that going with the 4.5 million goalkeeper of Henderson, or basically Crystal Palace's first choice. If we find out that Johnson is first choice of Crystal Palace, he'll be in this spot instead. If we're unsure who it's going to be, I might change things about a bit. So I definitely want to pick a keeper who's definitely going to start. And it's a pretty good start to the season. But goalkeepers are... I don't want to be spending transfers on goalkeepers. That's a problem that I've had on previous seasons, is I've spent far too many transfers on the goalkeepers. So I want to keep it nice and safe. And I just want to be able to sit with a goalkeeper there and keep him for the long run. In terms of the backup goalkeeper, pretty unimportant spot for me, just a 4 million goalkeeper. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at selected, and we're going to go for Lumley here, because I want to pick a team that I'm not going to triple up on. I'm not going to triple up on Southampton players, and also a player who is low owned, because that means they're not going to be transferred out loads, and therefore they're not going to decrease in value. So that's why Lumley is going to be the 4 million goalkeeper there. In terms of the defenders, I've changed my tune a bit on Arsenal, purely because I want to hold my team for as long as possible to really build up those transfers. And as you can see here, Game Week 1 will have, Game Week 2 will have 1 free transfer. For Game Week 3, 2 free transfers, and so on and so on. When we get to Game Week 6, that's when we'll have 5 free transfers if we've not made one. That is when Arsenal's fixtures get really good. So I could happily spend 3 of my free transfers to get in the Arsenal players, because this run at the start is really, really tough. And I don't know how many points they're going to be getting in this. So I'm not going to have initially a Arsenal defence. If they are looking good by Game Week 6, I'll probably have 2 of them. And I'll probably have to shift the funds a bit elsewhere. But we're going to have 2 defenders who are pretty expensive to fill in the spots to hopefully get in those Arsenal guys. The first is going to be Gvardiol. I think if he continues being nailed for City, I've said this in previous videos, he is just one of those players who is an absolute season ruiner. He can be, because he's got that much potential to score, to get clean sheets. We saw it last season in a single game. I think he got 21 points, was it, when he scored twice? He's just one of those players. And even though he's not 100% going to be nailed on, his potential is so high, I don't want to miss that if he does get off to an incredibly strong start in the season. And again, he's expensive enough and a good price point where I can easily swap if I'm wrong about him. But yeah, I want to keep him about. And yet the fixture's a bit tough in 5 and 6, but it's a super, super nice run. He could be a good hold for about 10, 11 game weeks there. Super, super nice. I'm sure many of you already have Gvardiol on your team, and he's probably going to be my 6 million midfielder of choice. Defender of choice. I have thought about Trippier, but there's just too much speculation about him possibly moving. And I think as well, I will be keeping an eye on Lewis Hall, who did score, I believe, in a preseason game and looks to be, hopefully, the starting left back now for Newcastle. It is surprising that Burn does seem to start there so often when Hall seems to be a more natural fit for left back. I think he's actually a centre midfielder. But Lewis Hall could be incredibly good value. for that Newcastle defence at only 4.5 million. The other expensive defender is going to be Pedro Porro. This is purely because of the good start that Spurs get for game weeks 1 and 2. He's just super attacking. He's super attacking, and I do like my attacking defenders. I did speak about the 4.5 million rotation for defenders, but I think I found a cheaper way of resolving that. And I think spending a little bit extra on the defence to get those attacking players is really, really nice. And Pedro Porro just looks to his absolute best yet again. He's on set pieces when Maddison isn't there. That does seem to affect his expected assists quite a bit when Maddison is on the pitch. But funnily enough, he has actually scored all 3 of his goals last season. He did score 3. Yep. He scored all 3 of his goals when Maddison was on the pitch. So he has different facets to his points potential, basically. The Spurs defence isn't the most solid, but again, those 2 fixtures are quite nice for a potential clean sheet and attacking returns for Pedro Porro. In terms of another defender, we are going to stick with Mykolenko. 4.5 million to get into the Everton defence is really, really nice. They were yet another super solid defence in terms of the numbers last season. They have lost, I think it's Onana in their midfield, so you would expect them to drop a little bit if they don't sign anyone. But Mykolenko, I think, is a nice addition to the team, and he's someone who I can hold for a long time, given how good the fixtures are for Everton. And he has a couple fixtures there which are a little bit tough. Home to Brighton, home to Bournemouth, away to Leicester, home to Crystal Palace. All really nice fixtures, but he has a couple of tough ones here and there. And this is how we get around it. We're going to have 2 4 million defenders because there are more and more defenders that we're seeing right now who are regular starters. And there are 2 in particular that fill in those gaps really nicely. The first is Barco, who we believe is going to be the starting left wing back for Brighton whilst Estupiñán is having his surgery. And this is all I really need him for. Again, the fixtures are pretty tough for the start of the season. But game week 4, Ipswich at home, when Mykolenko has Aston Villa away. So he can just come in for that game. That is all I really need him for, to fill in the blank spots with Mykolenko's fixtures. And again, a left wing back for 4 million, who really cares about who it's for? If he's got a slight attacking threat and he's regularly playing at just 4 million, he's an incredibly good enabler for the rest of the team and allows me to have these more expensive defenders and still keep value up top as well in the attack. So, yeah, Barco is going to be in the team there. And the second player is going to be Harwood Bellis, who was in a lot of my previous drafts. And again, game week 2, Forest at home. He can come in for that tough fixture for Mykolenko. I believe I did get this information from FPL Harry. He posted on his Twitter, so full credit to him for this idea with the Everton defence and rotating in the 4 million defenders to fill in the blank spots. Game week 7 as well, I believe. No, not for Harwood Bellis and Barco. No, so game week 7 is a bit of a tough one there. But again, I've probably made a transfer by that point to bring in a double Arsenal defence is probably what I've done at this point. So I don't really need to worry about that. And I can keep Mykolenko for an even longer run, given how good those fixtures are. I will see as well during pre-season who else can play at left back for Everton, because I don't think there are many options. So I think Mykolenko's minutes are pretty good at this moment in time. But again, the likes of Branthwaite and Tarkowski are absolutely nailed whilst they are still at the club. So they would be better options at 5 million. But yeah, and also the rotation to a Villa defender, I think looks really good for Mykolenko. That was the other thing as well. So yeah, nice little backline there. Some expensive, some cheap. That's, I think, quite nice. In terms of the midfielders, we are still going to have Salah in the team. I don't think I can go without this guy. He always does really good at the start of the season. And yeah, this is probably going to be our last season with Salah, I imagine. I think he's probably going to move after this one last season. And yeah, super, super good start to the season. And we know he's going to play. We know he's going to start all the time. I am keeping a very close eye on 2 players in particular from Liverpool from their preseason game so far. One is Jota, because I think his minutes are going to be very good for the start of the season because he's back training now, and the other attackers, Diaz, Nunes, Gakpo, they are not back yet. So he's going to have more time to work with the manager, and I believe that means that he's probably going to start as the striker. I don't know if that's going to be a regular thing, but I am very, very keen on Jota, as he is an incredibly clinical player. And if he's starting as the number 9, it's going to be very tempting to start the season with Jota if he is the only Liverpool attacker, well, at least the front 5, who is going to be back playing regular minutes. The other one I'm keeping my eye on is Harvey Elliott, only 1% owned. He has been lining up as the number 10 in pre-season, and he's already racked up 2 assists in the game he just played against Arsenal. He is looking really, really good. He can really push on, I think, in this season. And if he starts getting regular minutes at only 5.5 million, I haven't seen many drafts with a triple up on Liverpool. So I know people might dismay you from picking the likes of Elliott because you might want to triple up on Liverpool. Well, for the time being, I think it's pretty good, given how great Liverpool's fixtures are, given how cheap he is, and given how he might be playing in this more advanced role in the number 10 that Liverpool seem to be adopting. They're going to play with an out-and-out striker, wingers who are going to like to cut in, and an out-and-out number 10. So getting any of that front 4 on the pitch is going to be really, really nice. We thought it was going to be Szoboszlai. He's not really been lining up there. It has been more Elliott doing that. So it could be between those two. But yeah, for 5.5 million, I think Elliott could be a really nice way into the Liverpool attack. In terms of the next midfielder, been in most of my drafts, Anthony Gordon is going to stay in the team. That opening fixture against Southampton at home, probably the best on paper. And yeah, the run for Newcastle is really good to start off the season. Again, Man City at home, a very tough one. But I think Gordon, his minutes will be very, very good to start the season. He is a bit late coming back, and you might notice in this team, I focus quite heavily on the players who are coming back and racking up those pre-season minutes. But when it comes to Gordon, I think he's going to be back early, and I think he's going to be raring to go because he didn't really get many minutes at the Euros. And yeah, I know that Murphy has actually been looking really, really good in pre-season. Might need to keep my eye on that. But I think he's going to be competing with Barnes for minutes. And I think that Gordon is going to be a regular in that team. So hopefully he comes back and he starts for that opening game. But yeah, I will keep my eye on that and monitor that situation. The third pick is going to be Eze here. Eze with really, really nice fixtures to start the season. And again, I just love Eze as a player. I think with Elise gone, it's going to be interesting to see how that's going to affect Eze, whether he's going to be better or worse. Mateta, we'll have to wait and see if he's back as well with the team. He's going to be getting really good preseason minutes with the Olympic team. He is playing regularly for that team as well. Whether he comes back and he goes straight in to be alongside Eze, he's going to be on set pieces and he's a penalty taker, which is really, really nice. And again, I think Palace are going to kick on this season. I do have really, really high hopes for them. And that Game Week 4 fixture is great against Leicester. The opening fixtures are fantastic. Well, not fantastic, but they are good. They are good for Crystal Palace. And yeah, he's just a regular guy, going to get minutes. Again, I don't think he's back yet from the Euros, but again, someone who didn't get many minutes at all and is going to be raring to go. We are going to go next for Nkunku, who he's just got a really tough fixture, that Man City at home fixture. If you can just get through that, I've picked quite a few players who don't have a great opening fixture, Game Week 1, but from Game Week 2, kind of focusing on my Game Week 2 wildcard video, if you guys haven't seen that. Picking the players that they don't have a great opening fixture, so I'm just going to have to get through that, but then have great fixtures after that. And Nkunku seems to be doing really, really well in pre-season. He has scored twice. They have both been penalties, and that obviously does that is good for Parma. They've already won 3 penalties, I think, in 2 games. So they do seem to be very, very good at winning those. Whether it's they get into the box and they're quite tricky, so they get a touch and they go down, get a penalty like that. But he has looked good in pre-season. And I think it's 6.5 million. If he can start nailing down those minutes, the manager talks very, very highly of him in that he can play in all these kind of different positions. I think he's going to be great for the for 6.5 million in terms of a starting spot. We are going to leave the last midfielder blank because I'm going to pick a random 4.5 million player in this, because we've got Salah in the team and we are going to have Erling Haaland in the team. Now, I think the best news possible came out in that Erling Haaland apparently is carrying a niggle and is a potential doubt, which is going to lower his ownership, and I think it's complete rubbish. The opening fixtures against Chelsea away, if he's at least 60, 70, 80% fit, he's going to start. It might be affecting his form, but he has been regularly popping up in exactly that position that we know Erling Haaland's going to be. And I think Man City are looking even better thanks to Oscar Bob now being integrated, I think, more into the side, and he's going to be getting more minutes. And Erling Haaland is just a safe bet, and he's a safe captaincy bet as well. I don't really want to go without either of Haaland or Salah, which I have done previously as well. I don't want to go without either of them, and Haaland is a ton of money, but I'm now looking at drafts with Haaland and seeing that they're not actually bad. You can have a draft with Salah and Haaland and still make it look good on paper. I just have to go without the likes of Palmer, Foden, Saka. But those three names are all going to be late back from the Euros. Palmer, hasn't played many minutes, but I do have my doubts about Foden and Saka to start off the season. So I think getting off to a really good start with expensive players in every position gives me maximum flexibility for later down the line if I have got things wrong. But I think I can make a pretty good team here with both Salah and Haaland in the team. The next player, you all knew it was coming, Alexander Isak. There's no way I'm starting the game without him unless we somehow get news that Wilson's going to be the starting number 9. I don't think that's going to be the case. Scored in both of Newcastle's preseason games, at least I think they've had 2. Best fixture on paper, second overall for expected goals, just behind Haaland in terms of the stats. And I think he's just going to be racking in the goals, raring to go as he wasn't at the Euros. And I think he's definitely going to be on that score sheet in game week 1. Super high ownership, but rightly so. I think he is the most essential player in the game. He's not essential, like you don't need him in your team because there's so many great options, but he is the closest to it, I think. He is the most important player, I think, to have in your team. Just given the numbers, given the fixtures, and given everything about him at 9.5 million. That does mean we are going without Watkins in this team, but I'm keeping a very close eye on him. Isak might be leaving the team in game week 3 when Watkins starts off his really good run. Or Haaland might be leaving the team. We will wait and see what happens. Obviously, injuries can play a big part in our thinking, which is something we don't seem to recognise. And in terms of the last spot, 10.5 million. I mean, we'll fill in the midfielder spot for the time being. At the moment, I'm going to go for an interesting pick here. Raksaki. Who I'm hoping is going to get the minutes. This does give me a triple up on Crystal Palace, though, which I'm not super keen on. So that might change. But he is going to be my 4.5 million pick to start off the season. I think Yarmouk is someone I definitely would monitor in terms of starting minutes. Winks I'm not going to pick. I don't want a 4.5 million midfielder I don't want a 4.5 player who's just going to get regular minutes. I want someone who is going to be explosive and is going to be great. It's going to be attacking. He's going to be really attacking. I want a winger for my 4.5 million midfielder because Winks is just going to get 2 or 3 pointers, which I'm not going to rely on this 4.5 million midfielder much, and I want them to have that big potential to either get 1 or 6 points rather than Winks, so I think he's just going to keep getting 2. That's why Raksaki's in the team, but again, that's a very low importance player in the squad. And in terms of the final forward for 6 million, I am liking the look of Chris Wood. However, there is just too much uncertainty for me at the moment with Awoniyi. I can't say for certain that Wood is going to keep starting. He's going to keep playing every game. I know he was in really good form to end the season. I just can't guarantee that he's going to currently play. Armstrong, I do like the look of on the bench. However, Southampton have just signed Brereton Diaz. He's not yet in the game, but again, that's contention for minutes. So I don't really like the look of him. João Pedro, I think, is all right, but he's got his own problems. He could potentially be nursing an injury. I think he's back in training now, though. But again, his minutes don't seem completely settled in that Brighton team where there's just so much rotation. So my 6 million attacker is going to be Muniz, who does look like he's been handed the number 9 shirt, which is always a great sign in terms of being the starting striker. I don't believe he's on penalties. He might be given them if he's chasing for numbers for the Golden Boot. But yeah, he only started about half the games of the season and he got 9 goals. If he had a full start, he started every game in the season, started similar to a Solanke, he wouldn't be too far off of him. Solanke, by the way, is someone I definitely want to mention at least somewhat because nobody has been talking about him. But he is just a regular starter, 90-minute man, penalties, all that kind of jazz. But Muniz here, just great fixtures to start off the season. I think Fulham will have, they look like they'll have a good start to the season. I'm really considering Robinson as well for the defence. I do like having the 2 4 million defenders to fill in the gaps. But I do also think that Fulham have some really attacking fullbacks. We do like the look of. And I think Muniz, given the number 9 shirt, given the form he was in, he's just a safe bet, I think. He's going to be starting in that number 9 spot, and he's going to rack up those minutes and hopefully rack up those goals as well for the Fulham team. So we're going to make the transfers there. And in terms of the squad for Game Week 1, Mikalenko is going to come in for Barco. I do back the Everton defence over the Brighton defence. Porro is obviously going to start over Harwood Bellis. And Nkunku will play over Raksaki. I might look to see if there are any better options for that Game Week 1 fixture because I don't really fancy Nkunku's chances in Game Week 1 against City. But after that, the fixtures are great. So that's why I want him in the team. But I might start someone over Nkunku for the Game Week 1 if I can shift the team about a bit. Salah is going to be the captain. Isak's going to be the vice captain. Save the team there. It's a very close call, I think, between Salah and Isak. Isak, I think I have more solidity in terms of him scoring. I think he's more likely to return, but Salah's more likely to go big. If he's back on form, he can easily get a brace if Liverpool are going to, the gears are going to be turning. I do really like Isak as a pick, though. It's a really close call. I think those are distinctly the two best options for captaincy. Haaland's not really my thoughts for captaincy, but he will be for future game weeks, and that's why he's going to be in the team. So that's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. I hope you have enjoyed. Do you like the team as it is? Do you like it as a Haaland and Salah team? Do you think I've managed to fit them in both? Without suffering too much elsewhere. I've mentioned quite a few players in this video who I'm definitely going to keep my eyes on in terms of value picks. I've picked a lot of assured minutes players. That's kind of how I want to start the season, and then hopefully have this team for 5 game weeks to then really use the transfers in game week 6. I know people are already planning to use a wild card in game week 6, but I think if you can hold the transfers, you can save the wild card for if injury strikes happen or if something happens down the line. I think you can use those free transfers in game week 6 rather than a wild card to potentially save yourself from any problems. But I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next FPL video.